This video is brought to you by Rebloom, my software choice for professional portrait retouching. More on that later. Folks, I've been shooting with the new Hasselblad 20-35 lens for a couple of months now, and I have to say it's probably the best wide-angle zoom lens I've ever used. Now, we typically think of this kind of focal length as being for landscape only, but this guy has such low distortion, it's really quite versatile. So in this video, I'm going to take you along on a bunch of different shooting scenarios, including a swimsuit shoot, cityscapes in Sydney Harbour, some street photography in Tokyo. I'll take you along for some festival and travel photography, and even some ASTRO photography. But let's start out with a portrait shoot of a sumo wrestler. Seriously, what could be a better subject for an ultra-wide-angle environmental portrait than a 2-meter tall, 170 kilogram sumo wrestler? I can't tell you how excited I've been for this shoot. I brought over a huge kit of off-camera flashes, light modifiers, accessories, I've hired a translator, and I've rented out a sumo dojo, and I'm gonna spend a good hour getting everything set up and prepped before he actually arrives. Okay folks, so we're all set up now and Toshiro should arrive at any minute. You might actually recognize him. He was in John Wick 3. He was one of the sumo wrestlers fighting in the Osaka scenes. So look, all of the shots that I have planned for today I think are going to work perfectly with the 20-35 with that wide angle field of view. I've actually been a huge fan of the XCD 35-75, their only other zoom lens, for years. It's probably my most used lens actually, and this has some obvious advantages over that. Firstly, it's smaller, lighter, more streamlined, it's really elegant to use. It's also a lot quieter than that one, and it's also faster at the wide end at f3.2. Now, this guy isn't actually just a new lens, it's the first in a whole new line of lenses. So we had the P series for portable compact lenses, then the V series, which was kind of more premium, versatile lenses that had some great features and a faster aperture. And now we have this, the E line, which is going to be a new line, top of the range with the best possible optical performance. So I'll be interested to see what follows this guy. But for now, I need to focus on today's shoot. We've got a really strict timeline, so I'm going to be completely focused on the specific shots that I have in mind. Now, the main shot I want to get is him squatting down in that kind of pre-fighting stance. I think it's going to work great with the wide angle lens to look up at him and kind of show how big and fierce he is. I'm guessing around 24-26 mil is going to be a good focal length for that. We'll just see how it works out. Now for that, I've got a few different lighting concepts in mind. I've also brought along some canned atmosphere, some glycerin to simulate sweat, and some different little props and stuff. Beyond that, I've got some other key shots. I'll start off with just some kind of standing, looking strong shots. I also want to get some where he's throwing the salts, the ceremonial procedure they do at the start of every sumo wrestling match. And I also have some kind of surreal or funny or cute images that we'll see how it's feeling today, but I brought along some flowers, so hopefully we'll be able to use that. Now, I think we'll start out with the simple standing ones and finish with the glycerin and smoke and everything so that we don't make too much of a mess. Toshiro should arrive at any minute, and I'll have my translator kind of brief him on the plan. I can't wait. After greeting Toshiro, we had him dress in a dark blue mawashi, that's the loincloth that they wear. Now, before getting into the bizarre flower shots, I asked him to just take some run-of-the-mill tough guy type poses, which allowed me to refine the light. And I have to say, I underestimated his size when I was planning things in my mind's eye. Okay, now thankfully Toshiro has a great sense of humor, and when I brought out the flowers, he was totally fine posing with them, and he actually mixed in some cute little gestures and poses himself. Maybe it was with the encouragement of my translator, Monica. For the salt tossing shots, I went with simple bare flashes. At first I liked the concept of showing his shadow on the wall behind him, but I think the background is too messy for that. So I made use of the flash sync on this camera and lens combo, letting me get up to 1/2000th of a second, which turns the ambient to black. And then I can use my flashes to just bring him and the salt up to the fore of the image. Now, using hard light, you have to be careful with your angles. You can create some really deep shadows if you aren't careful. If you're interested in learning more about using flash, check out my dramatic single light portraiture course. I'll pop a link below. Whilst you're over at my website, you can also check out my Hasselblad setup guide. It's already been updated to cover the 20-35E lens, as well as the 907X100C camera. Check it out, full details below. Next up is the main event, and we're going to be moving into the fighting stance shots. Okay, so Toshiro has gone now to change into a more formal white mawashi for the squatting shots. Now, I read his specs and his measurements and everything, but I'm still kind of surprised by just how big he is. I at first was thinking, wow, lucky I'm using a zoom lens so I can go wider if I need to. But giving it more thought, I actually think going further back and zooming in more is going to be the move here. If the closer I am to him with the wider lens, like I can go crazy close with the 20mm, but then the more I'm looking up at him, I'm kind of exaggerating his size more and more, and that's the last thing he needs. So I'm thinking actually going further back and zooming into 30-35mm, it should give the viewer more of a sense of, if you were actually down there, how it feels to be looking at this big tough guy about to start a match. And seeing I want to print these 100 megapixel files out to be gigantic prints, I think having that feeling of really being in the match is going to work better rather than looking up at him like he's some kind of skyscraper or something. So as soon as he comes back, we're going to get in, get the lights working and everything, then we'll start adding in the glycerin and all of that kind of stuff to build up the shot further. So cute.
Thank you.
So thank you so much to Toshiro for joining us today. I hope he has a great time in America. It was really an honor for us to shoot with him today.
今日来てくれてありがとうございます。そして本当に良かった、いろんないい写真撮って、そしてこれからアメリカも頑張ってください。
ありがとうございます。Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll pop all of his details below as well.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとう。Okay, folks, that was such a fun shoot. It was actually a few months ago, and since then I've been shooting more and more with 20-35. Just for reference, that's it there beside the 35-75. Now, this guy, it now replaces the 21mm as the widest lens in the whole system at 20mm, and at 20mm it's a full 2/3 of a stop faster than the previous one. So you've got 150% of the light, more than that, to work with, which is great for all the normal reasons of autofocus abilities and getting your ISO down nice and low. Now, this video is kind of getting long, but I wanted to run through and show you some images because the image quality of this lens is just fantastic. So as I talk you through the different shots, I'll show you some B-roll of the shooting that I have done with the 20-35. So firstly, whilst I was in Tokyo, I got some shots before shooting with Toshiro, actually, shooting in Shinjuku in the rain. You really can't go wrong with shooting neon lights and rain for a bit of kind of street photography, for want of a better word. Now, taking a look at the shots here of Toshiro up close, this is exactly what I'm looking for from a lens when I'm doing environmental portraiture. It's wide, it's responsive, it's got great focus, and absolutely jaw-dropping image quality. Next up, whilst I was back in Australia, I shot with bikini model Clara for a swimwear shoot. It was a really great fun shoot, and I found myself using the 20-35 a lot. You can see, of course, the skin tones we're getting from the combo with the X2D is just beautiful, but the overall image quality and the lack of distortion meant that it worked really well to be able to incorporate, you know, the rocks and everything with a nice close working distance. I also found that the stabilization of the X2D, which is just off the charts, let me get shots where I could have movement in the water at like half a second, or basically as long as she was able to hold still, we could get the sharp parts sharp and then let the water go nice and blurry. Now let's just take a look at this shot in Rebloom and let me show you why I'm using this so much for my portraits lately. Reminder, they are sponsors of this video. Great thing about this software, it doesn't care about how much skin is showing, so you're able to do full retouches. And just looking at her skin on the face there, so much texture, it looks so natural and nice. When I click here so that you see the before, you see it has actually cleaned up a whole lot. And of course, you know, pimples don't define a person, they come and go, depends on, you know, the environment. And then because we were sitting on rocks and stuff, she also had discoloration and little scratches here and there from that were just there for that day. So I have no problem having those removed too. And you can see Rebloom goes through and it doesn't overdo it. It's not going to take out birthmarks or moles or that kind of thing. And it leaves all of the skin texture intact. I really love the job that this does. And this is on the more natural settings. You can do a more beauty themed shoot, kind of a fashion look, and that will really touch things up whilst keeping the skin tones and the skin texture intact. You can check it out below. There's a free trial that you can grab, and for our community, if you do like what you see, you can pick it up with a 20% discount. Okay, a few more shots to share here. I took this kit along with the 907X100C to Bhutan and shot all kinds of different festival and travel photography. Really love the results we were getting there too. It's unobtrusive for such a wide lens. It's not big. It's also practically silent, which is really nice. And of course, as you're traveling, you'll often find yourself in tight, confined spaces, so wide angle is helpful, but it also lets you draw attention to things in the front of your shot, whether it's a person or a door, to really bring them out. And some look-up shots, this one taken at nearby Sensoji in Tokyo, with crazy detail as you zoom in there. And this one is an apartment building in Hong Kong. You can pretty much spy into the 30th floor building windows if you wanted to. On that same trip that I was shooting with Clara, I stopped off at Bronte Beach. Just look at the beautiful colors through the water here. It looks like a painting, except that you can zoom in and see the expression on every person's face. It's like one of those Where's Wally books. I also rushed by Sydney Harbour to get a shot of the Opera House and the bridge. If you're shooting for sunset, a great point is the Kirribilli Lookout. You can see crazy amounts of detail here, and with a bit of a longer exposure, around 10+ seconds, we get some nice softening of the water. And finally, on my last trip back to Australia, I also took this combo with the X2D out for some ASTRO photography. These ones taken at 20mm at around 10 to 15 seconds exposure time. So that's it, guys. The 20 to 35E lens is officially announced the top of the XCD range. Thanks to Hasselblad for sending it out and letting me test it out for so long, and bring it to you guys also for sponsoring this video. I'm really interested to see where this E lens lineup is going to go. It's sitting above the V range, so we're going to see some more primes come out that are higher quality, faster aperture, something than the V lenses. It'll be really interesting to see where all of this goes. But as I said, small, unobtrusive, and probably the best image quality from an ultra-wide angle zoom lens that I've ever used. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys soon.